Good evening, welcome to Culinary Episodes. Tonight we are going to do a beef bourguignon pot pie. So as you can see here, we got all our ingredients out. What we start with is a nice piece of beef brisket. Okay, it's got a nice grain in it, and it cooks well in a stew. Okay, so we cut that up. We got our veg, some carrots, some pearl onions, some baby portobello mushrooms, a little flour, a teaspoon of tomato paste, a half a cup of red wine, 3 cups of beef stock, and some fresh thyme, and as always some salt and pepper. So first step, season your beef. A little salt, don't be afraid to touch it, and some pepper. Okay, butter right into your hot pan. We're going to start with a tablespoon of butter. And just melt that down. You want to get your pan good and hot. Just keep an eye on it. And you can see it's melting fairly quick. So the trick about this is getting it hot enough to where it melts good but doesn't burn. And we want to get a good sear on the meat without the meat sitting in here sauteing for too long. So get that good and hot. And in goes our meat. You can hear a nice crackle. That's when you know the temperature's right. Okay, we're gonna get a good sear on that, and when it's just brown on the outsides all around, we're gonna put our veg in there and finish it up. Okay, we're back. As you can see, we got a nice brown color on the beef here. Don't worry, you're not going to overcook it. It's going to be cooking for hours anyway. So now goes our next step. We're going to add our pearl onions, carrots, and mushrooms. Baby portobello mushrooms. Give that a little stir. And then, when you're making stews especially, you kind of want to season each layer. So every time you do a step and add an ingredient, add another layer of salt and pepper. Okay, this is going to saute now for about another 5 minutes, and then we're going to go to our next step. Okay, next step in this process of our beef bourguignon pot pie. We're going to add a teaspoon of tomato paste. Plop that in there. Okay, and just give that a little stir. And all we're trying to do is get this little bit of flavor in there. It's very strong. It's going to come through. Okay, and on the veg, it's going to cook, like I said, for a long time. So we just want to get a little bit of a little color on these, just like that. Okay. That's all. Okay, now next step. I'm going to add another tablespoon and a half of butter. Let that melt. Give it a spin. Try to expedite the melting process. You see it's getting all creamy down there on the bottom. And it melts fairly quickly with this high heat. And we're going to get that mixed up, get that nice butter, rich butter flavor on everything. Okay, now we're going to add about a 1/4 cup of flour. Goes right in, mix that up, and it's going to become a paste, generally called a roux. Okay, there we go, get the flour all mixed up. There you go, it's dry again. Okay, now half a cup of Burgundy wine. Now with this step, give it a mix, just like that. And then you just want to cook it for about 1.5 minutes to 2 minutes. And all you're doing here is cooking off the alcohol in the red wine. You're still going to be left with that really rich Burgundy flavor. It's going to permeate the meat, penetrate the vegetables, everything. Okay. Oh, if you could smell that. Okay, next step. Let this cook a little bit longer. Okay, and in goes 3 cups of beef stock. Okay, give this a stir. And now the waiting begins. So we're going to turn this down to about 5 or medium. Cover this. Whoops, wrong lid. Cover that, and we're going to let that come to a simmer. When that simmers, we're going to lower it again. Okay, welcome back to Culinary Episodes, doing our beef bourguignon pot pie. And here we go. This is our finished product. We finished it with a little bit of fresh thyme, and you can see how thick that got after cooking for 3 hours on the stove on a very low heat. Okay, so our next step is take our puff pastry, and we're just going to roll it out lightly. This should be defrosted for about 20 minutes to a half hour. Just want to roll it out a little bit. Then we're going to serve these in our little pot pie dishes, ramekins like this. So we just plop it on top, press, and we're just going to cut away the puff pastry. Okay, pull that off, and there's our top. Put this aside. We're going to take our delicious beef bourguignon stew, lay all that in there like that. Make sure you get a good amount of everything in there. And you see it's hot. We're not going to cook it again. We're putting our puff pastry on, and it's going to go in the oven. And we're just going to cook it till the puff pastry cooks. About 12 minutes on 425. Okay, so here we are. We're about to plate up our beef bourguignon pot pie. Here it comes. Okay, look at that. Gorgeous. Now be careful, of course, everything's going to be very hot. Right to a plate with it. And there you have it. Beef bourguignon pot pie. Delicious winter day food. Dig in. Thanks again for joining us on Culinary Episodes. Good night.